where one of the MPs really put it really well. If that's how you're going to reduce the Mheshimiwa, imagine she's controlling a budget of a couple of $1 trillion.
Yes.
In the state of Minnesota. So be careful.
That are bigger than some counties.
Exactly.
It's bigger than some county budgets in Kenya.
Actually, it's even bigger than the country. If you look at the GDP of the country of Kenya compared to the state of Minnesota, my friend, you'll be shocked.
Yeah. Like, Kasongo.
Yeah.
Why you have to compare him to Kasongo?
Okay.
No, I mean, just president.
So state representatives are basically like Kenyan MCAs functionally. Is that an accurate statement?
I've heard that time and time again. And this particular issue was debated on the Kenyan parliament where one of the MPs really put it really well. If that's how you're going to reduce the Mheshimiwa, imagine she's controlling a budget of a couple of trillion.
Yes.
In the state of Minnesota. So be careful.
That are bigger than some counties.
Exactly.
It's bigger than some county budgets in Kenya.
Actually, it's even bigger than the country. If you look at the GDP of the country of Kenya compared to the state of Minnesota, my friend, you'll be shocked.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So going to that question, we are comparing oranges and apples.
Yeah.
Our structure here in the U.S. political is very different from Kenya.
Yeah.
Like Kenya, you have members of parliament, and then you have, obviously, you have the president. Then you break it down all the way to women reps, then you have the MCAs, and then you have the ward, Sijui Nini, and then you have the all of these things all the way to the area chiefs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so we don't have all of those stages here, and so it's really up to whoever.
So the governor is basically controlling a budget that's way bigger than Kenya, probably even way bigger than the whole of East Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
state is like a country, right?
Yeah.
It's like state is its own individual country.
Yeah.
But then
so
again,
governor is like Kasongo.
Yeah.
Why you have to compare him to Kasongo?
Okay.
No, I mean, just president.
Haya, sasa hapa Mwakisha anasema mkumbuke Idi ni Jumapili, kwa hivyo inakaribia. Inakaribia. Naona bandio tayari ashava kanzu, lakini sijui kama alifunga mwezi wa Ramadhani.
That story for another day.
Sijui kama alifunga. Liko tayari anajitayarisha Idi. Anajitayarisha Idi lakini sijui kama
he's gained weight. He didn't lose.
Some of us have lost weight.
Nimepoteza dhambi, nimeongeza baraka.
Amen.
Yes.
Okay. And then I think you already mentioned this, what relationship you had with Ilhan Omar. I think this is a question that you already answered. And then Slay here is asking, I also want to ask if you have met Jasmine Crockett. I know she's a Texan and African American. Just a curious question.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Obviously, my jurisdiction is the state of Minnesota, and she is at the federal level. But I think the fact that, her name has been brought up speaks volume in terms of what she's doing and how vocal she's being. And I think a lot of those Congress folks needs to be more vocal about what's going on in our country unapologetically. Because the other side is not apologizing for
they're
anything.
not.
If anything else, they are crossing boundaries on top of boundaries.
They're transgressing, all kinds of
left
boundaries.
and
every
right,
day.
and nobody's holding them accountable. So to get somebody who's very vocal about it is refreshing. And I think she's a great example of how, the rest of Congress, if you truly took an oath to protect this democracy, you need to speak up. And that's what she's doing.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good.
But can't you invite them? I saw, was that Bernie Sanders and AOC somewhere,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So can you invite those to come? I mean, having a district that is 33% Africans?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something to think about.
So great question. We at the state of Minnesota are leading the country in terms of mobilizing around, sounding the alarm. I think it's too late, whatever the case might be, but at least we are doing something. We are waking up, right? So Governor Walz is going around the country, holding town hall meetings, sounding the alarm. I personally don't know what his ambitions are, whether he wants to run again for president himself in 2028. I don't know. 2027, I'm not sure. But the goal right now for the Democratic Party, which is now being led by our state DFL chair, Ken Martin, he just won that seat. The goal is to bring the party together and mobilize around one common goal. And that is to start making noise around what is going on with this administration, all of the different really platform issues that are being infringed left and right with no accountability at all. We are looking at our national security and the signal gate. Now they have coined it, right? How do we sit here as a country? Can you imagine? Let me just ask. Can you imagine if this particular situation happened during the Biden or Obama administration? People would have rolled over.
They would have had them for dinner.
Exactly. So the state of Minnesota right now is actually going to continue holding town hall meetings to talk about, executive orders and what we need to do as they continue to rain down on the state. This summer, we are going to be intentional about going around the state, drumming up support for candidates. And again, let me remind everybody that this role is only 2 years. That's not a whole lot of time to do a whole lot, So again, going back to my biggest challenge as I stepped into this role is managing expectations. And so I will start campaigning in the next couple of months here already, right? And so I'm trusting and hoping that, as a party, we need to, come together and figure out what it is that we want.
Okay.
Start looking at, who we are fronting for 2027. And really not even the 4 years, not even the presidential elections, the general elections. We have midterm elections coming up.
Yes.
What are we doing?
Yes.
We need to prepare, start now. We don't want to wait until last minute. That's now when we're figuring out who wants to be a candidate for that role.
Yes.
No,
we need
that's
to
how
start,
we lose out.
Yeah, we need to start preparing early. And now on YouTube, the Trump supporters have shown up. This Trump support, they walikuwa wamepotea. Lakini I'm glad I'm seeing one here because I'm curious.
How do you know that they're Trump supporters?
Because we know them.
They have revealed themselves.
They've revealed themselves.
Okay.
They've revealed themselves. Yeah.
It's not a hashtag.
No. So I'm not mentioning names, but Resilient, karibu sana to the OneMicShow on YouTube. Resilient says, Chuck put the interest of Americans first, not his party. The Democratic Party is polling so low, and the senator knows that. It's suicidal for Democrats to want to shut down the government. Okay? And then Resilient Father says, kudos to the new Congresswoman. You sound reasonable and not radicalized to play party politics. Your star is bright. That is Resilient. And then Resilient Father says, I wanted to run until I listened to the Congresswoman. I hope she is not radicalized by the left wing of the Democratic Party. She sounds like she is in the Bill Clinton Democratic Party. So I don't know what Congresswoman Resilient is referring to.
Expand.
Okay, so I think representative.
Yes.
So you've already been promoted to a Congresswoman. Yeah.
And it's so interesting.
Resilient wanted to run. Resilient wanted to run. He was ready. He was ready, but
listen. Tell him to run because this seat is not my seat. It's the people's seat. So him stepping up or whoever who is willing to run, my friends, because I know that you cannot outwork me. If you outwork me, I will give you your flowers.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that Resilient is saying. She is not playing the race card either. As I keep saying, we live in a great country where you can become anything you want to be if you work hard and stay focused. She's an example.
Amechange tone. Amevaa ile kofia ya parental. Ile kofia ya parental ya ule mzazi alikuja na anaongea na watoto wake.
No, that was just my natural tone.
I feel like I'm listening to the big broadcast show. Ile stories the 1960s.
Oh, by the way, I listened to the big broadcast on NPR. Yeah, very good. Now, Resilient Father says, she is not representing Americans who voted for her, and she is not representing Americans who voted for her and not Kenyans who may want tenders. That's not how politics is done here. And then Resilient Father says, Omar.
I think it meant she's representing.
Okay.
I think that's what.
But Aliandika, she's not. Okay. So I think it was a Freudian slip.
Yes. Give Resilient.
Resilient Father says, Omar is from Kenya. Too tough. She was born in Somalia, but sought refuge in Kenya before migrating. And then...
because we were going back and forth about... we were going back and forth about you being the first Kenyan. And he's saying, but we are claiming Omar. I was like, we can't really claim her just because she stayed in. She's not. She's of Somali origin.
Now Cameroon and claim
so...
the Cameroonians.
And then Upper Resilient, his father saying, please stop being selfish. She's African sister too. We should not just celebrate Kenya wins, but the entire continent. Okay.
We celebrate Omar. We celebrate
Omar. We celebrate her.
And that's I was trying to let him know.
And then Resilient is saying no fighting today. And I think part of the reason why there's no fighting is because even MAGA guys are suffering. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
Maybe Resilient will give us a different look at it. Maybe.
Or maybe Resilient have gotten bahashas and tenders from for supporting
they see
Trump.
The big picture of making Vitu lean and mean and firing.
And remember they were telling us that Trump is not a war guy, but he's just been dropping bombs in Yemen randomly. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
That's just what you people think. This is what had to happen.
Okay.
Piga simu.
Sawa. But Resilient, please call in. 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We are a very fair platform. We want to hear from you. We want to hear how you feel, like in these first few months of Trump. Watu wanafinywa kufinywa. I don't know whether hiyo kufinya imekufikia ama whether you guys are getting, like some special treatment. You showed a lot of support for Trump. So we just want to find out, I think we're now, is it 3 months into I'm not even counting this.
It's only been 3 months.
It feels like a whole year. It feels like a whole year. It feels like a whole year. And then Resilient hapa nasema the Democratic Party stopped listening to the common man. They have a lot of work to do. And then Resilient Father says, I am not ashamed to say I cannot be a Democrat until they figure out their issues.
So there's hope.
There's hope.
He's saying I wanted to run away from the show,
not run for her seat.
For your seat. Oh, run away.
Run away, yeah.
Run away
he
from
was
the
coming
show.
And then he was,
he was coping,
He said, Kuna mambo. So he stayed.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then Resilient is confirming that I am not suffering. I don't want to get into it today because of the rep from Minnesota.
By the way, Resilient is from Minnesota.
Okay. All right.
If I
he
remember
needs to
correctly.
come visit me.
Resilient is from...
Okay.
So Resilient...
Come visit me.
Resilient, yes.
Okay.
So Resilient, please inbox us. We're going to make this connection.
We are going to, yes.
We're going to make this connection. Maybe
you
we
said
can...
He needs to come visit you or
he needs to come visit
I think,
me.
Resilient is from Minnesota.
It's from Minnesota,
If he's from Minnesota, and I believe he's probably from the Twin Cities, if I'm just making an assumption, but...
Okay.
If he is, I would love to meet with him.
Resilient, call in. Tuko na mtu wako, call in. Kwani iko nini? What's that number again?
202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. It's right on the screen, so please give us a call. Slea anasema in those 2 years, do your best. That is all that matters and representing your constituents.
He's saying he's from the West Coast.
Yeah. Oh, he's from the West Coast?
Resilient bana, maze unatu enjoy bwana.
I may change mind.
It's all right. It's all right.
And then Amin Ali answer, Madam Hulda, are you planning to advocate? Are you planning to advocate women rights as a state legislators 38 district in? Okay.
Of course.
What is women rights? What women rights are you advocating for right now? So real quick, you can respond to that as we read the few comments before we get to the other part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, really quickly, obviously, as a woman, I truly believe that we deserve the right to our bodies. And so we are championing legislative pieces in the House in regards to those rights, making sure that women have equal rights as well. So the ERA bill is huge, and we are hoping to pass it this year.
What is the ERA
Equal
bill?
Rights Amendment. And that basically levels everything for women.
Was that supposed to be, there was a constitutional amendment, a U.S. constitutional amendment, but it failed?
Yes. So we're trying to push it at the state level.
At the state level.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Tuko na simu sasa.
Okay, sasa before tuende kwa hiyo simu, quick comments here. Mwakisha alikuwa anasema sahi demo wako chini kama mavi ya asubuhi ukipiga kazi mzuri. And then hapa Brown Sugar anasema, so I think people are coming out and revealing how they feel.
You talked about people coming in last minute. This is the last hour of this show. Wake it up.
It always happens. Sikia what Brown Sugar is saying. Brown Sugar is saying, huyu resilient ndio wale watu watasema egg prices are high because Biden killed all the chickens. And then hapa I can see Tuna Pacho inasema, you guys forget that Republicans did not win by a wide majority. So umesema Bandio kuna mtu amepiga simu, there's a call.
Kuna watu wale wamepiga simu, ngoja tuangalie nambari 4 za mwisho 08320 hold on, let me see
0832. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from and talk to us.
Welcome to the OneMicShow.
Hello there. Hi, guys.
Hello. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
We're good. Say it again. Say how are you again.
This is resilient. You've been calling me a guy. You've been saying I'm from Minnesota.
I'm making assumptions.
From Minnesota.
No, let's give chance. Let Resilient talk.
From?
Let Resilient talk.
Okay, Resilient Karibu.
No, okay. Asante sana. You know, the last time you said, you are Aji and Resilient are the same people. Now you can hear my voice. I'm not Aji, right?
Okay.
Where
are you calling from?
Where are you calling from? Apologies, Resilient.
I'm calling you from the West Coast. I'm calling you from the West Coast, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. West Coast, Washington State, California.
She said leave it at that.
All right. Karibu Resilient.
Resilient, apologies, my sister. Apologies.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's fine. Rep, and congratulations again. And I'm sure you're going to do the people of Minnesota proud. And I listened to you. Actually, I said I wanted to run, as I said, because sometimes I can't agree with the guys in the studio. And simply because you are Republican, you're told you are MAGA. First of all, I'm not even a Republican. I'm an independent candidate. I'm independent. I can vote either way, depending on what is happening. Okay. And yes, I was a Democrat. I voted for Obama. And so I don't think anybody should be castigated because you decide to vote differently. And as I said, I don't think I'm a victim in this country. And Rep, you can confirm that to me, that you are now a rep in Minnesota. That's huge. That's a big deal. And for me, I believe that it is attitude that will take us far. Where I live, I work in a big institution. I'm not going to mention the name of the place that I work in. Right. I even know Kenyans used to ask me, how did you get to this place? How did you get a job in this institution? But I think at the end of the day, it is our attitude and working hard and not playing victims that will take us far. Of course, there are challenges, and we want things to get better. Whether you are a Democrat, you are independent, or you are Republican, there are things that we would want to get better in the U.S. for immigrants. But it doesn't mean that every day I'll be singing that I'm a victim or this is happening to me. It is my attitude that has taken me who I am. And even you guys, I'm sure, where you are right now. So it just sometimes drives me crazy when I hear this race card every day.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's truly America is defined by its democracy, and we are sitting here because the people of the U.S. spoke in terms of who they wanted. Even though, again, a majority, there was 22 million people who didn't vote, right? So at the end of the day, I am about for me, I don't care where the good idea comes from, as long as it's going to help, the people that we are serving. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, and there's a lot of castrating of folks who don't align with your party. And that's not how we're going to move forward. And sadly enough, that has divided our country. Just because you're aligning yourself with a party, all of these stigmas and all of these assumptions about the party, you are literally facing that. And so I want to acknowledge your independence. And I also want to acknowledge, too, that, the party alignments for some of us, right, especially us minority candidates, it's the only way to get in there. And mind you, now I've always been a Democrat. I truly believe that the Democrat, provides that inclusivity. But like I said earlier, we have lost our way, and we need to come to the table and get it together, and really figure out, who are we? And so I appreciate your perspective. And it sounds like you are well rehearsed in this space. And I mean, depending on the West Coast, we have a whole bunch of Kenyans in the West Coast, Africans in general, mobilize around, political power and what that looks like from your end. It sounds like you have really great ideas, and great ideas can come from anywhere. It doesn't align with party politics.
So there's one quick, sorry to intervene, but there's one quick point that I want to bring in that resilience mentioned, and maybe tell us, maybe what you think about it. Is like minorities need to stop playing victim. There's no victimhood. It's just people just need to change their attitudes, because that's something that we hear a lot. I think when people are talking about issues to do with racism, and then of course DEI has been in the media so much. So with resilient is saying this country, and I believe she said it before on the show. This country has no racism. It's just an attitude issue that people have. Because she mentioned, like herself, she was able to get there through, pulling up her bootstraps and working hard. So if everybody just did that, then everybody and just change their attitude, everything would be successful, because there's no racism. It's just people calling victimhood.
I mean, we all have our lived experiences. And personally for me, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a Black church, a Southern Baptist church, where I learned, about Black history and the resilience of the Black population who came here as slaves, and their journey in this country and what they had to fight for and continue to fight for. So I do not want to downplay Resilience's experience. I am happy that has been her experience, but I'm going to speak from my own experience, because I can't talk about anybody else's experience. I have seen how institutions that are rooted in racism have impacted, people who look like me, who talk like me. I have worked in, corporate America long enough to experience that, where I am being judged. It didn't matter that I had 3 degrees. I had this many years of experience and still can't break that glass ceiling.
Are you sure that wasn't victimhood? Because I'm not the politician here. I'm just translating what now is being said down here, because that's what Resilient is calling victimhood.
I mean, for me, victimhood is sitting here and allowing yourself to get caught up in this systems that were never meant for us, right? If I allow myself to get caught up in that and not fight for what I deserve, what is the value that I bring to the table. So for me, it has always been this battle of justifying myself, where my white counterpart didn't have to. For example, let me give you a very clear example. Again, this is for me. When I always door knocked, there was a couple of times the police were called on me because, automatically a Black person walking in affluent communities, they are being questioned in regards to what are they don't belong here, so we have to acknowledge that, racism still exists and is live and well in this country, but that doesn't mean that you have to become a victim of it. It's a matter of how do you go about addressing that in a manner that continues to build yourself up, continues to allow you to still thrive in this country where, I'm sitting here as, a member of, the House of Representatives of Minnesota, where, if I didn't, fight for that. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, racism exists, but at the same time, that shouldn't be used as an excuse to not achieve what it is that you want to achieve in this country, because you can.
Okay, so Resilient. Yeah, so before we go to the other caller, Resilient, I'm going to give Resilient the last word, but Resilient, can you also acknowledge the same way that Hulda has acknowledged your experience? You've never experienced racism. You've just pulled your bootstraps up and everything has worked for you. But can you also acknowledge Hulda's experience where she was in some spaces where she saw racism and she experienced racism and it was not victimhood? Resilient, last word.
I do, and I respect, what she has said. And I'm not just saying that everything has just been very smooth for me either. And I'm just going to say briefly here that when I got employed in this institution, I was the only Black person for a long time in my department. But that did not at any one time make me feel, because it's just me, a Black person from Kenya, or there's not even an African American in this department for this long, then I had to feel like, I was the black sheep of that department, or I had to feel like I was a victim. I agree, Rep, that there are so many things that need to change, and we can change them positively. But what sometimes I don't agree with, and I know you need to get to the other caller, is you hear some people who have gone to prestigious institutions in this country, who have held high positions in this country, yet they just want to say that minorities are victims, they cannot rise, instead of trying to encourage people that it is your attitude, like what the Rep is saying. Look at where she is right now. I am sure it is her attitude that has gotten her there. If she just sat down and said, I'm a Black person from Kenya, I don't think I'm going to get this seat, then she could not have gotten it. She couldn't even have thought of working hard for it, but she did, and she made it. So this is what I'm saying. I agree there is racism and there are some things that need to change, but it is our attitude that takes us far. That's all I'm saying. Okay,
thank you so much, Resilient, and we do appreciate you acknowledging that that there is racism, and this is what we're talking about. When we talk to each other, it will be easier for us to get along. But when we all stick to our corners, we are going to end up in the situation when Resilient, asante sana. We have another caller. Quickly before we go to the other caller, there's a very interesting question here. Asante sana, Resilient. Thank you. There's some interesting questions coming here about boys using girls' facilities, but we're going to be talking about that slightly later. I think we're going to first pick up the caller, and then we're going to go to some of the questions that are coming up here.
All right, 0073.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then talk to us.
Hey guys, this is Asheke calling from Juba, South Sudan.
She could even be in the cell with that guy.
Okay. From Juba.
So yes. So first of all, congratulations, Hulda, for that achievement. I last spoke to you when you were on the show and you were still campaigning, so I'm very, very happy and proud of your achievement. And it's such a befitting conclusion to Women's History Month and the theme this year, which is Accelerate Action. And you're exposing those ideas, you're challenging us and inspiring us, to serve in the communities that we live. So I have a question. You mentioned that prior to your public service, you worked in corporate America. Can you share how your experience and skills in corporate America benefited you as you successfully ran for your current role?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think for me, each lived experiences played into, my running for political office, specifically for corporate America. It allowed me to, learn how to navigate in those spaces, learn how to deal with certain characters within those spaces. And really, it gave me a good chance of really experiencing the realities a lot of people who look like me go through. And because when you step into the political side of things, those challenges are magnified. because now you're a public figure where anybody and everybody can feels like they have the right to come at you anyhow, anyway, with no apologies. At least in corporate America, there's ways you can combat that, attitude and those behaviors. So it allowed me to really just be prepared to deal with, this idea of, the need to always prove myself. That hasn't gone anywhere. It doesn't matter how qualified I am or, what I bring to the table. I still have to sit here and really, work twice as hard. And so that has carried over to this role where I'm not sitting here trying to fit in, but also I'm here now the next level, right? Being proud to be who I am, to step into my power and my own truth and own it, and step in with confidence, knowing that I do bring value to the table, and it's a value that is carried by the voices of a big population who have felt unrepresented in those places of power and in the decision-making tables.
Okay, Washeke, last word.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. So I have one more question. I know you've mentioned one of your biggest challenges is managing expectations, and as Ali has said, a lot of citizens don't know, the workings, what it takes for, a bill to become law. So how are you managing expectations with your constituents? Because they have a lot. They voted for you. They have expectations. And, we don't understand how the halls of power work. So how are you managing their expectations? Because, as you said, you're going to be in your role for 2 years, and hopefully you'll be seeking re-election or seeking elections for a higher office. So how are you managing that?
I mean, when I talk about expectations, from this perspective, is expectations of our community, what they think this role is. I personally do not, I'm not worried about the expectations of my constituency because I have been on the ground, campaigning, door knocking, talking to my constituency and trying my level best to understand exactly what it is that they require of me. And those are the things that I'm prioritizing right now. I want to make sure that I'm talking to as many people as I can, and I continue to do that. As we are going through this legislative session, it's about being open and providing communication to my constituency that brings them information about what it is that we're doing at the Capitol. Because a lot of times I realize that as elected officials, we don't do a good job of coming back to our constituency and saying, hey, this is what's happening at the Capitol. This is how it impacts you. And last but definitely the most important, this is how you can participate. And I think that is something that I continue to work on, and I will continue to do, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who elected me. And so in this context, when I talk about expectations, is expectations from, the Kenyan community that expects me to, act a certain way or expect that I can do certain things where, I'm not able to just because of my role and the jurisdiction of my role.
Okay, asante sana Hulda, and thank you so much Washeke.